Welcome back, all you fabulous fifth graders. It is time to continue learning a little bit more about our multiplying of whole numbers by fractions. You will remember that last week we had talked about multiplying with unit fractions, which are fractions with 1 as the numerator, so 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, and finding a piece of a whole that we would have had. So let's kind of review what we talked about last week. So this was one of our examples. Grace had 16 rare coins in her collection. She put 1/4 of the coins into a safe. How many coins are in the safe? So we were thinking about the fact that she had 16 coins in total in her collection, as you can see, and we wanted 1/4 of that. So we thought about taking our 16 coins and breaking it off into 4 equal groups to figure out what 1/4 of that would be. So sharing 16 coins into 4 equal groups would look something like this. And we had said, okay, so how many would be in 1/4? That's one group out of the 4 that we were able to make. And we would get 4. So thinking about 1/4 of 16 is 4, because we're taking our total of 16 and we're dividing it into 4 equal groups. So we're thinking about taking a part of something, and so therefore we're kind of using our division, and we're dividing 16 divided by 4, because that was our denominator, so that tells us how many groups we want to break it into. So 16 broken into 4 equal groups leaves us with 4 coins into each group. So how many coins did Grace have in her safe? She had 1/4 of them. So let's look at another example. So Camilla has 15 coins in her collection. She puts 1/5 of the coins into a safe. How many coins are in the safe? So take a minute to think about it. If I have 15 coins and I'm going to break them off into 5 equal groups, how many is going to be in 1/5 of those groups, or 1 out of the 5 groups? So we're thinking about 15 dividing into 5 equal groups. So what would that look like, right? So we were thinking about 15 split into 5 groups. Hopefully you were thinking something along this frame of mind, where we would end up with 3 coins in each group. So how many coins are in the safe? 1/5 of them is 3. So 1/5 of 15 is 3, because 15 coins split into 5 equal groups is 3. We split them into 5 equal groups because that was our denominator. We're taking one group of them because that was our numerator. So that was what we worked on last week, kind of taking our unit fractions and figuring out what part they are for our whole. So when you're looking for a fraction of a whole number, you're taking a piece of the whole. So that's important to remember, that your answer should never be bigger than what you started with. So you're really thinking about division. If you have 15 coins and I want to take 1/5 of those coins, I need to think about splitting my whole group of 15 into 5 equal groups to figure out what 1/5 is going to be. And in our case, it was 3. Or when we had 16 coins, we were breaking them into 1/4. We were dividing into 4 equal groups. So our answer was always smaller than what we started with. We're thinking about division to help us get to that answer. So what happens if we don't have a unit fraction? Could we use that same reasoning and thinking to help us find 2/5 of 15 or 3/5 of 15? That's what we're going to talk about today. What if you don't have a unit fraction? Can you still use that same idea of dividing and looking at how many groups we want to get to our answer? Alright, so let's explore a little bit. So here's an example. There are 18 cars in a parking lot. 5/6 of the cars belong to customers. The rest of the cars belong to the staff. How many cars belong to the customer? So I'm really thinking about 18 cars. I love having a visual. I think that it's very helpful. It doesn't have to be cars. It could just be dots. But I have 18 items in my whole group, and I need to figure out what 5/6 of them would be, because that's what belongs to the customers. So what is 5/6 of 18? Well, I need to think about how am I going to figure out 5/6 of 18. I'll probably need to figure out how much 1/6 of 18 is. So I'm thinking about my denominator of 6. So I'm going to first figure out 18 cars split into 6 equal groups and what that would be. I chose 6 because it was my denominator, not because it's my favorite number. So if I have 18 cars and I'm splitting them into 6 equal groups, going back to my picture, how many is going to be in each group? Well, there'll be 3 in each of my groups. So So my 1/6 ends up being 3 cars per 1/6. So 1/6 of 18 is 3, because taking your 18 and dividing them into 6 equal groups gets you 3. But I haven't answered my question yet. So the question asks me, how many belong to the customers? Well, the customers are 5/6 of that group. So what is 5/6 going to look like? So if 1/6 is 3, what if I had 5 groups of that? So I'm thinking about, here are my 1/6. I don't want just one of them. I need 5 of them. So I need to figure out what 5 would be. So I'd circle 5 of my groups. So 5/6 of 18 is going to be taking that 3, and I'm going to have 5 groups of them. So 3 times 5. So my answer ends up being 15. So it's very useful to figure out what the unit fraction would be. So 1/6 of 18, figure that out first. 1/6 of 18. So I'm going to think about 18 split into 6 equal groups. That gets me to 3. Then go back to what the question asks you for. How many groups are you looking for? Well, in this case, we're looking for 5 groups. So I'm going to take my answer of 3, and I'm going to multiply it by 5, because I need 5 groups of 1/6. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then double check, does your answer make sense? There were 18 cars to start with. 5/6 of them belong to the customers. The rest belong to the staff. So my answer needs to be less than 18, which 15 is. And 5/6 is pretty close to 1 whole, so my answer should be pretty close to 18. So 15 is a reasonable answer. All right, let's look at another one. How about this? There are 21 coins in a bag. 3/7 of them are dimes. The rest of the coins are quarters. How many coins are dimes? I would again stress making a visual. Dots work perfectly. We're just figuring out 3/7 of 21. So we are thinking about taking our 21 coins and splitting them into 7 groups. Well, 21 divided into 7 groups is 3. So 1/7 of 21 is 3, because 21 divided by 7 is 3. This is the same information we've been practicing. 1/7 of 21 tells me I'm taking my 21 coins and dividing it into 7. Why did I pick 7? That goes back to the original problem, right? 3/7 of the coins are dimes. Once I know what 1/7 is, I'm then going to figure out what 3/7 of that would be, or 3 groups of that 7. So I circle my 3/7. How many coins is that going to be? So how many are dimes? Well, at this point, I'm going to be counting my 3 groups of 7s, and I will get to 9. I could think about it as being 3 times 3 in this case, because each one has 3 in them, and I need to find 3/7. Is my answer logical? Well, 3/7 is a little less than half, so 9 is a little less than half of 21, and my answer is not more than what I started with, so that's a good sign too. All right, let's look at a couple more. I'm going to give you some thinking and some ideas on how to think, and then kind of let you think a bit. So we have 3/5 of 10 of the apples. So you're thinking about, we have these 10 apples. I'm splitting them into 5 groups because that's my denominator. What would that 1/5 be? So if I had 10 apples split into 5 groups, 1/5 of 10 is going to be how much? And that reasoning, again, is going to be because you're taking your 10 and dividing it into 5 equal groups, because that was your denominator. Once you know what 1/5 of 10 is, take that information and multiply it to figure out 3/5, or circle 3 groups. And in our case here, we can multiply our answers. So if we know what 10 divided by 5 is, that gives us our 1/5, and then multiply it by 3. Same thing with the pairs. You have 2/6 of 12. So the first thing I need to figure out is if I have 12 pairs and splitting them into 6 groups. Again, 6 because that was my denominator. That's going to help me find out 1/6 of 12. Once I know what 1/6 of 12 is, I can then apply that to what would 2 groups be. So think about what your answers might be for these ones, and then we'll see how you did. So I'm going to do that same reasoning, except I'm going to show you the answers this time. So 3/5 of 10. Okay, 10 apples divided into 5 groups, that's going to give me 2 in each group. Hopefully you were able to get that. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I can make 5 groups of 2 apples. And the question wants me to pick out 3/5 of those. So how much would 3 groups be? Well, 3 groups is going to get me to 2, 4, 6 apples. So 3/5 of 10 is 6. And what's my reasoning for that? Well, I thought about 10 divided into 5 groups, because of fifths, my denominator, and then I multiplied it by 3, my numerator, to get my answer of 6. So I'm thinking about what I started with, my whole group, divide it by your denominator, how many groups you need to make, and then multiply it by how many groups you want. I want 3 out of those 5 groups. That's going to give you your answer. So let's apply the same reasoning to pairs. 2/6 of 12. Well, I'm thinking about 12 and I'm splitting it into groups of 6, or into 6 groups, excuse me. So again, I'm going to get 2. Hopefully we were thinking 2 as well. And in this case, I want 2/6. So I need 2 of those groups. So what's my answer going to be in this example? Hopefully we're noticing 2/6 of 12 would be 4. Because, let's check our reasoning, right? We started off with 12, we divided it into 6 equal groups, and then we multiplied it by 2 because we want 2 of those groups. So you start with your whole group, divide it by however many groups you want to make, and need to make, and then multiply it by however many groups you want to get your answer. Same process. So you can work with visuals every time. You can also try to explore without visuals if you want. So let's try another one with pictures. So think about 3/8 of 16. I'm thinking I have 16 stickers. I want to divide them into 8 groups. And then I want 3 of those groups. 2/3 of 12. Take my 12, split them into 3 groups, and then I want 2 of them. Hopefully, you are thinking about what those answers would be. So 16 divided by 8 is 2, and I want 3 of them. 2 times 3 is 6. And for B, 12 split into 3 equal groups is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Alright, so let's kind of recap. That's a lot of information. So when we are finding a fraction of a whole number, we are thinking about some division and some multiplication. We need to first figure out how many equal groups we need to split our whole group into. After that, we multiply by however many groups we need. So the denominator tells us what to divide by, and our numerator tells us what to multiply by. So 3/8 of 16, that was that example we just saw, is 6. How do we get that answer? Well, we take our whole group, 16, and we split it into 8 equal groups because that was our denominator to get how many are in each group. The numerator tells us how many groups we need. In this case, we need 3, so we are thinking of the expression 16 divided by 8. That tells us how many are in each group, or what 1/8 of 16 is. And then we're multiplying by 3 because that's how many we need, how many groups we're looking for. So we get to our answer of 6. Some without visuals. If you get a chance to use the Nearpod, try these out. Otherwise, you can pause and try these, thinking about your expressions. You can pause and then decide, and then I will show you the answers and my thinking. Hopefully, you're having a little bit of success. We're taking our whole, dividing it by our denominator, multiplying it by our numerator to get our answer. Your answer should always be less than what you started with. Notice, all of my answers are less than what I started with. Super important. Okay? This is a lot of information. It builds upon what we learned last week, but there's an extra step. Please feel free to reach out with any questions you have. We are here for you. We want to support you in the best way we can. Please try the Nearpod so that we can kind of give you some live feedback. Thank you for joining us for math lesson number